Yay, good morning. Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is the Daily Medicine Transmission for October 4th, 2021. We're 2 days away from this huge October Libra new moon. So welcome back, everyone, after the weekend. And if you're new to this channel right now, welcome. It's so great to have you here. And I truly appreciate each and every one of you. And I really appreciate this Palo Santo. Really, really appreciate it. So how is everyone doing? How was the weekend? We have the moon in Virgo right now, and we're going to get into that in just a little bit. We're going to get into all of the energetics, all of the subtleties that are part of our reality. So I hope everyone is doing well. Had a weekend that was restful, because that's really the flavor here that we need to be bringing into our lives. It seems like every step of the way is kind of priming us and bringing us to a point where we can successfully and very masterfully find our still point amidst a very dynamic process where I feel like time is going to contract so much that things will be moving very quickly. There'll be a lot of change in a very short amount of time, with all of these direct planets happening between now and the solstice, especially Pluto stationing direct on Wednesday with the new moon. We have Saturn stationing direct on the 10th of October. We have Jupiter and Mercury both stationing direct on the same day on the 18th of October. This massive Andromedan full moon on the 20th, Andromeda Galaxy being brought into the fold, and Andromedan star seeds. I mean, freedom and independence is the primary signature of Andromedan Galaxy star seeds. So if that's something you're aware of within yourself, or if you're interested in knowing what your star seed origins are, to really be able to hone in and focus in the specific traits that are relevant depending on what time period we're in and what configurations are happening in the sky, you can book that type of reading through me. And that is in the description box below. You can find the website. So let's see if I can do some better lighting here. That's a little bit better. So I hope everyone's doing well. It seems like in some ways, it feels like, I wouldn't say things are slowing down, but there's that, we're in our balsamic moon phase right now. And we had an opportunity just today, really, and leading up to it. I could really feel the Virgo moon connection to Uranus building for the last day and a half. That's been pretty strong, at least in my awareness. And it was exact this morning in a sextile. The moon was in a sextile, or in a favorable, harmonious connection to the star Sirius. We talked about that in We've talked about that in the reports for the equinox solstice, of course, and then we talked about it for the new moon report, because that was, it's a pretty significant connection, this 13 to 14 degrees of Virgo being not only Sirius, fixed star Sirius, but in galactic astrology, it has to do with the role as an avatar. So that's something that I feel like that will come into play as we are discussing all of these points and positions and all of these energetics. So it's been, I feel like it's definitely Monday, right? Like we are really trying to wake back up in some ways and to get ourselves going for the day and for the week. I mean, this is a pretty important week. So the new moon, as I said, is coming on Wednesday. So today, in that trine to Uranus, returning to the degree of the new moon cycle that we're currently finishing. So there's a really good opportunity, as it is in every single month, that we have the time at this balsamic moon phase, right? When it's getting to its darkest, its most reduced, right? Down to the very reduced, very almost distilled nature, and brings us to a place of silence and quiet. And we're going to see in the astrology today how much that's being supported as we get closer to the shifting of the nodal axis, the lunar nodal axis, right? The moon's nodes. And they will be shifting to Taurus and Scorpio come January. And we have this full moon lunar eclipse coming up. This is all covered, by the way, in the equinox to solstice report, but it's so important that to bring it back in, because this is part of the way that we're going to eventually get to a reality, right? A distinct reality where we are cultivating natural energies. We're going to be moving out of this mind, higher mind aspect with the nodes in Gemini and Sagittarius within the next couple of months. And we are going to have this Pleiadian revival. We're going to start heading in a direction that is not about the mind anymore. It's about our sensitivity to the natural world and connecting to natural law, and not necessarily trying to gather any more data or information. Not to say we're going to turn our minds off or our research faculties at all, or to be using our mind as the tool that it's meant to be, but our soul's karmic trajectory at a collective level is soon going to be pulling us in this direction that has way more to do with natural energy, the connection to the planet directly, the connection directly to each other as other living beings, other creations of source, right? It's going to be a big part of our awareness starting in January for the next 18 months after that. And of course, that means the South Node's in Scorpio. And the power of our communion, the power of our ritual, the power that is inherent in any relationship and what that means is certainly going to be momentum moving forward, but it will show where we've been, just like with Sagittarius in the South Node. The last 18 months, showing us where we've been, what we've mastered, right? The alchemical aspect and the properties of true alchemy and understanding. So as we move in this naturally regressive or retrograde fashion with the nodal axis, we're going to eventually come to a point where we're going to get to see where we've come from, and it's going to be a deep, dark place, very deep, dark place where a lot of things that have been hidden for a long time are going to start surfacing, and will continue to do so as the South Node transits throughout the sign of Scorpio for the 18 months. So honestly, I mean, we're getting into the time frame between now and 2024, honestly, when Pluto then moves into Aquarius, and that's going to be it's just going to be a whole new ball of wax to interface with. So, but we're talking about today. Today is Monday, so I'm going to just check in with the stream and make sure it's going. Good morning, Veronica. Yes, looking forward to our somatic essence coming online. Yeah, me too. Very much so. And in fact, it's going to be a necessity for our soul growth, right? The soul of humanity, to be perfectly honest. It's definitely going to be what we need, right? Which is going to be hard for people, especially if you've been really active. You have a lot of strong Sagittarius or Gemini in your chart, for instance, even just a lot of strong mutable energy in your chart, because the last 18 months especially have been so hyper-focused on that Gemini archetype and the accumulation of knowledge, the acquisition of data, right? To go into that space of the dialectic without becoming attached either way, to see it for what it is, to unpack it, and to utilize where we've been in terms of our understanding and the process of understanding, and using that to give us the momentum forward to start taking in new information. And if you've been hyper fixated on that, if that's something that you found yourself really the most active in, it will be an interesting shift when it goes into fixed earth and water, right? There's no getting around what that feels like on any level. And I, for one, am looking forward to that. Any Pleiadian starseed is definitely looking forward to that, because that's going to be it's going to be almost like a homecoming. It's going to be very resonant to those of us who have the Pleiadian starseed origins, and recognize that that's part of our mission here. So, man, we're I'm not going to go into too much science stuff today. We're just going to we're going to keep it in the realm of the spirit, and because there's just not too much going on, right? I mean, the Schumann certainly had their blips over the weekend of amplitude, but, the sun has been fairly quiet. We got that we got the big CME that wasn't even that big by the time it got here. It still made some geomagnetic impact, there was certainly some activity that happened around it, but that happened on the 1st. And since then, it's been pretty quiet. Now, certainly there has been earthquakes. The Ring of Fire is very active. There was a really big earthquake, like a 7-pointer in the Pacific, off the coast, not off the coast of Australia, but kind of in that vicinity of the Philippines and Indonesia, but it was out in the ocean. So it was pretty big, but that's, again, it's not that abnormal to have these large releases every so often. So things seem to be calm, and I think this is a good opportunity to take that balsamic moon phase that we're in right now and just give ourselves some opportunity to cultivate some natural energy, to get comfortable with natural living, and to maybe bring ourselves up from the deep depths just for a minute, just so that we can feel what it's like to have that peace of mind and that calm, which we are going to need. We're absolutely going to need it. So let's just get right into the reading for today. It's been quite a ride. And so even though things seem to be, at least on a personal level, they seem to be very stressful, and they are. It also does appear as well that things are going according to plan, right? That what is being experienced is is finding its balance right now. And of course, that's such a Libra thing. And we have the Sun in Libra, Mars in Libra, Mercury retrograde in Libra. So it's going to reach ahead with the new moon on Wednesday, where Mars is in conjunction with the new moon, and finding that peace of mind, finding a place to relax. You have to actually give yourself a break in order to digest everything that's coming in. And you want to be able to digest because you want to make space for what is coming in that's new. And Pluto will certainly be helping in the in the process of breaking things down when it stations direct on Wednesday as well. So let's just get right into this reading and see what we got what to work with today. So thank you guys for everything that you do and for being here. And I seriously appreciate each and every one of you through this process. If you're waiting for reading from me, it's coming. I'm starting to get booked out like multiple weeks in advance. So still 2 more days to book the flash sale for the transit reading, the lunar transit reading for October 6th new moon, and then a 30-minute Reiki session to support you energetically, to maybe get some intuitive information. If you need healing, relaxation, any of these things can be addressed with Reiki specifically, because you're doing the energy work from your own energy field. You're a channel for divine energy, from source creator energy, directly through, and it does what it needs to do, right? There's no need for directing it. There's no need to necessarily control it or manipulate it at all. It's just that myself and you as the receiver are both open to receive, and then we receive, and it is of the highest order. So it goes exactly where it needs to go, when it needs to be there, and is nothing but supportive. Other types of energy work can be very distressing, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just like shamanic energy work is a different modality entirely. So it's important to understand the differences too. And if you are an energy worker, or certainly if you're new to the process, you really do need to practice quite a bit to get, it's taken me multiple decades to get to a point where I felt very masterful, if I can even call it that, and trust what I'm doing and to know the difference and to feel into energy. So anyway, the flash sale, a couple more days if you want to book for that. It is on my social media, and yeah, it's on social media. So in terms of the flyer, all right, guys. So we have as our causal factor for today. Here's the star, our star card, number 17. Guiding optimism, guiding light. Isn't this wonderful? I feel like that, oh boy, specifically Jupiter in Aquarius. And so there's a long-sightedness and a confidence that comes along with Jupiter in Aquarius, right? Because it's big picture with Jupiter. Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, Jupiter, the defender of our collective value system, the defender of the human collective, or the defender of the belief system, whatever it is. Jupiter is a great manager. Jupiter does tend to be in a leadership position of management in some ways. Jupiter is like a lawyer as well. So is an advocate and a benefactor, right? Somebody that comes in and just gives, resources for the big picture. That's what Jupiter is. And Jupiter is in Aquarius right now, retrograde in Aquarius, and really advocating and supporting and giving us a lot of confidence. That's the other thing about Jupiter. Lots of confidence, lots and lots of confidence, because you need that confidence if you're going to step into that type of position, to advocate or to expand and to have the long game in mind and be long-sighted. So the star is Jupiter in Aquarius, because we are talking about Aquarius with the star card, ultimately the zodiac sign of Aquarius. And so this is, the guiding light, hope and trust and sensitive understanding of cosmic coherence, right? Intuition that everything is in harmony, a confidence in nature. This is a part of Aquarius that I think doesn't get as much attention as it needs to, because of course Aquarius is the collection of all the individual nodes into the full pattern of reality in the energy that moves through it, right? It's not so much the pattern itself. That's more of a Capricornian thing, is the actual matrix, quote unquote, the actual pattern and the unfolding of the pattern. Aquarius is the ability for that pattern or that geometric shape or that fractal to hold a resonance of a specific frequency and vibration that has an impact on everything in it, right? And so it tends to be characterized in a lot of ways as futuristic and innovative and outside the box, and very much about the humanitarian aspect. And I want to point out that aspect with Aquarius more than anything else, because it tends to in some ways will strip away the humanity of people in its lesser form or its dark side, right? Where you have the hive mind or you have the Borg. That's a great way to think about the darkest side of Aquarius, is the Borg, and how everybody is assimilated into one hive mind or one connected organism that isn't even made up of individuals anymore. It's the downside. And we have to be very aware of that potential. I mean, this is not something that is new here. This is what we're all kind of contending with, but I want to talk about it in terms of the higher aspect, or the light version of Aquarius, being the confidence in nature and the natural energy that is able to move through a collection of nodes or humans, individual nodes that are at their most powerful and their most confident and their most connected. So, and it's about sensitive understanding to this coherence, right? That you just feel it. And Aquarius is considered the water bearer, somebody that is bringing water and water is life, right? Bringing water to the collective, or holding the water. That's another way that I look at it, is being able to hold the water that is a collection, right? The Pisces, able to hold all of the potential, infinite potential of any collection or of individuals in a larger organism. So when we have the star, we are looking at the big, especially like the big picture, right? And confidence in the big picture and seeing way out and the expansion of the perspective to be long-sighted. So there's intuition that everything is in harmony with the star, and confidence in nature, and confidence in the creator, right? Because the creator is whatever that is, whoever that is what put the natural engine into motion, which is Capricorn, right? It's when you get stuck in Capricorn and start worshiping that you get stuck, right? You can't keep moving when you worship the materialism of nature itself, right? Nature is beautiful, and we are nature, right? We have embedded within us all of the mechanisms that everything else in the natural world has. But when you get stuck in that and worshiping that, this is where we find ourselves going astray, right? And so the star is the recognition of everything that is connected, and that there is a power that is moving through everything, and that we respond to it, and we trust it, and we're confident in the natural process. And there is a hope, right, with the star card. So this is a great thing to start with. This is a great thing to start with in terms of our causal factor. And I feel like a lot of us have gotten to this point, especially, like I said, Jupiter in Aquarius, and has been in Aquarius now for a little while. It's going to station direct later in the month. And so there is a sense of confidence. And I'd say over the last couple of days, especially since the 1st, I mean, there's been a lot of intensity, but what I feel is that there is a distinct confidence and a big picture in what we are capable of in terms of cultivating natural energies. Now, when we look at our present moment here, we see the art of alchemy reversed. Now, we've seen this already in its reversal position in more of an outcome type of situation. And now we find it here in the present. And this is a splitting apart, a tearing apart and splitting apart, as opposed to coalescing or bringing it together and creating something new. So you're getting into extremes, right? It's that nuclear fission of energy that's released, but it's released by splitting. So you're splitting up and tearing apart, and it's releasing energy in the process. And so I do feel like that, regardless if it's planned, and I would say with the South Node today, this will make a little bit more sense about this reversal, because where we've been and what, is the direction we're heading away from does show at a very base level, especially with Sagittarius, that there is something to be ritualized and with the conflict itself. And it's very much around the chessboard and the ritualization of the conflict that is symbolized in a game of chess, for instance. And it suggests that there's something to be gained from the friction that is created when you have these two extreme positions kind of battling each other. And it's the friction that creates the spark, and the spark that creates the fire, and the fire that catalyzes the chemical reaction that then creates something new. So it's about temperance, really, but it is the art of alchemy that this card represents. But in its reversal, you're going to feel even more the splitting, right? Which is why this star card as our causal factor is really, is something to really behold and to come back around to, because we're going to need this, this light within us, right? And to connect to the light outside of us, right? To the creator, to source, and to the biggest picture, in order to really handle what is coming as a result of this splitting apart and getting into extremes. Because this is certainly just about the only strategy left to those who seek to control the whole planet is the tearing apart and getting into extremes. And it will release energy. That's the thing about the nuclear fission, like that will release energy, and tear things apart. And you can feel that that's already happening. And I suspect that because with Pluto about to station direct very, very soon, this is also something that is very present in our awareness, even if we're not consciously aware of it yet. It's here. We feel it, that there's going, the splitting apart is going to be, it's just part of what needs to happen right now in order to really come to understand the two opposing dynamics in their own purified form, if that makes sense. So when we look at where we are energetically in terms of our root, here's our King of Roses. I mean, this, there's so many royal court cards that have been coming out lately. So where we can draw our power from personally is this balance, right, of passion and purity. Balance and be balanced and well-rounded, right? This is tender-hearted and thoughtful support. This person, right, when we have these court cards, we want to embody this into our own self, or these are people that we see in our life, or that we identify as part of our life, or even an influencer of some sort, and a leader, right? The king is absolutely a leader in his own respect. So this is about also taking loving but very considered action on your own behalf, and as well as other people. I think that's something to consider. We really need to start being aware that other people exist other than what we want to quote unquote manifest for ourselves. And I think that's a big part of why we are still in this position, because we still don't realize that everybody equally exists. And I'm not saying we, as in anybody in particular here, this is a collective situation here, that we have to be aware of the big picture. Again, the big picture, long-sightedness, and this is very much about Virgo, right? Our Virgo moon right now, because it isn't just about us. Yes, we are doing the individual work in Virgo on ourselves in that moment, but it truly is for the sake of the team, right? Whatever the team is for us. And so we can draw our power from having this position of authority, of course, but it has to be balanced with this thoughtful action, being tender-hearted and taking action, but taking loving action instead of getting caught up in like the blame game or pointing out other people's, where their positions are or what they are, their perspective, and that if it's wrong. And I know that's very difficult. It's going to continue to get more so. I mean, all you have to look at is this card right here. There's going to be more splitting apart. There's going to be more energy released as a result of this consistent breaking down of, every single duality and moving around to divide us more and more, because energy is released. And who's harnessing that energy, right? When it's being released. So we can draw our energy from this perspective and this role. We can body this role today for our own personal power that is well-rounded, that is balanced, that is thoughtful and tender, but also in very much authority of what's going on, and is willing to balance both of these aspects as an authority within ourselves. And because, of course, here's Archangel Michael, right? This culmination point, the flaming heart of Michael, where we can release our energy at the top, where we can contribute our energy at the top of our awareness and paying attention to where our thoughts and attention go. Archangel Michael, right? The flaming sword, channel of divine power. This is a very uplifting type of archetype. This is about a cycle of increasing power. Again, you see that there is a splitting apart that will release energy. So it's important that you trust your convictions. There you go. You're back to the star card, number 17, trusting your convictions. Trust the natural world. Have a sensitivity to cosmic coherence that is beyond what each of us individually can actually do, right? And have greater courage, initiative, and action. So we can release this energy that is splitting apart, that is tearing apart, that is getting into extremes. And if we are rooted in an identity in some ways of being balanced, balancing that passion, because, the art of alchemy is in fact Sagittarius, and it is it is a fire sign. So there is fire here that is at the heart here, but the fire is splitting things apart, right? And making them more extreme. So we can take our embodiment of the King of Roses and really draw power and our own personal power from this place and release it and really focus our attention and our awareness on releasing it into this channel of divine power, to use this archetype as a reference for how, because Archangel Michael is the defender, right? The flaming sword of it. It's not just one person. It's not just us. I mean, Michael, even on this card, you can see is lifting up those who cannot lift themselves because they're innocent and, they rely on the adults around them to take care of them and to protect them. And so Michael represents that as well. So a lot of power and a lot of authority in this reading today that starts with this very distinct trust and optimism and guidance from the star card, because what we are about to what to expect. Well, this kind of like all of a sudden puts the brakes on in some way, because it's like, here's interference, right? The Eight of Swords. So this is Jupiter and Gemini. So there you go from Jupiter and Aquarius, which is very focused. It might be expansive, but it's the big picture, like the long game and confidence, right? Aquarius is in some ways like the collective third eye opening into this laser point of focus, because it is singular in this way, that there is a singular purpose for duality, and it's in the Aquarian archetype that we really, really are able to harness that power and be part of it, to receive it and to admit it at the same time. It's like existing in all places at once. But this is Jupiter in Gemini. This is a completely different dynamic. And Jupiter in Gemini is in its detriment, right? Jupiter is at home in Sagittarius. So to have it in Gemini with that equates to this card shows that this is restlessness of the mind. This is endless analyzing, right? And there's something to be gained from this position of the Eight of Swords. There is a realization of causality that you can really get to if you don't allow yourself to get caught in the loop of endless analyzings and endless rabbit holes, and an acceptance of limitation and relativity. This is really important, an acceptance of relativity, because it's still really being put out there and people still really embracing this. And I did too. It's not to say that I haven't been down this road. This is why I get frustrated, because I'm like, I've already lived all of this. I've been down this pathway before you. So now I got here and it can be like, oh yeah, this is what I learned about it. But again, everybody comes to truth with a capital T based on their perception. And that is their cognitive function. That is the filter of their nervous system and all of their experiences that create that filter. And of course, it has to do with the filters and the programs that are installed through our subconscious, through social media and TV and advertising and all. And, at this point, probably from plenty of other ways too. So there's something to be gained here in terms of the interference, because it leads you to a point of like, there's nowhere else to go. It's just endless analyzing until you come to a point where you accept the limitation and the relativity of all of these values. So the thing that really struck me, and it always does, and this is a phrase or a sentence that came from one of the websites I use to to do my research and to double check the meanings of these cards when I go through the reading, and just to give myself more information. And of course, you read things differently every time. And so one of the sentences for this card says, only stupidity can be self-secure enough to believe that one's own thoughts is the only truth, right? And I know that this is a very unpopular idea within certain communities, the spiritual community, whatever even that means anymore, because we've been misled to believe that our thoughts create reality. And I've been pretty clear that I've come to a different conclusion about this based on my own experience and based on how I've gotten to this point, and based on knowing that reality is not created by us. We attract the resonance that is created for us by the creator, right? We are not creating anything. We are attracting to us that which is in resonance with our creative seat, which is our sacral area. This is the sacral chakra or the second chakra. This is our subconscious, right? So I know it's not a very popular position because we still want to believe that our thoughts are going to create our reality and that we're going to be living side by side with tyranny, and we'll somehow be in a bubble while it's going on. And I do believe now, after years of coming through this perspective and coming out of the other side of it right now, that in fact, if you do believe that your own thoughts are the only, that your own thoughts are the only truth, then you've been misled, right? There is one truth. It is natural law, right? And it comes from somewhere outside of us and will exist when we go, right? And it doesn't mean that we're not part of God or creator source. Of course we are. But we're not the ones creating it necessarily in this form of our 3D selves, right? We are manifesting by attracting through resonance, and that comes from our subconscious, that comes from our sacral area. This is why Kundalini is so important to understand, because if you don't understand it, then it gets used against you, or you use it for self-preservation, you use it for your own ego purposes, and you don't even realize it. So anyway, the Eight of Swords and the interference is about the restlessness of the mind and the endless analyzing and the constant rabbit holes and especially when things split apart, right? And tear apart. We're going to have a lot of information to work with. And if we don't find some sort of limitation, or we don't accept the relativity on some level of all of these perspectives in reference to capital T truth, then yeah, we are going to be endlessly analyzing and never come to any real presence. And this is what the Pleiadian revival, this is going to be the shifting of the nodes into Taurus Scorpio. This is what this new moon is really getting us set up for, is to find our stillness in the midst of all of this chaos and this really rapidly moving, wheel of fortune here, because it's going to be through our ability to rest and find that still point that we're going to be able to handle what's coming. Otherwise, it's just going to be this interference here, right? Where you're just going to have all of these things, all different shapes and sizes and even functions and forms, all being presented to us. And then also too, there's the Gemini swords, right? Of overlaying all of those possibilities at the same time. And so that is where we kind of really harness this interference, this mental interference, is that we accept the limitations, we accept the relativity, and we actually get into the present moment instead of just continuing to not to say that we shouldn't be aware of what's happening. We have to be vigilant. There's no getting around that. And you'll see here where that comes up. Speaking of which, so let's talk about that. Number one, the Queen of Keys is now reversed. We saw that last week as she was part of it. So when it comes to the King of Roses, in terms of where we find ourselves energetically rooted, where we can draw our power from, our connection to the actual earth, and the core of who we are. There's a tendency here to get, emotional distancing, let's put it that way. When we are having a difference in opinion with other people, especially with a person in authority, that can really throw us off too. We can also start to feel like we don't actually have confidence in what we have around us or in our natural world or what we've acquired as our resources. And that can also lead us to start being emotionally distanced or getting really caught up in the difference of opinion. So with the ladybug as the animal message, it's really bringing it around to, it's very simple, right? It's a time of good fortune and abundance. So you have to be willing to receive. And when you are getting shut down, or shutting yourself down because you are not receiving what you think you should, there may be a difference of opinion with other people, even in a situation that is directly related to your resources. Again, this is going to challenge your ability to stay balanced, to take tender and loving, but considerate action to yourself and other people that you care about. But this is about making space for the next thing or what you want to come in, and you have to be open to receive it. It's not necessarily about using your thoughts and endlessly thinking about something and then it just like shows up in form in front of your face. You have to be open to receive it. You have to cultivate things at a subconscious level in your energetic root here, in order to bring those things to you. If you're not resonating with them, then it's going to be discordant. You're not going to attract it to you. So it already all exists. It's just a matter of being in the same resonance with it, and then you recognize it and harmonize with it. So blessings and gratitude for all that you do receive is a good way to bring this about as well, other than getting caught up in what you don't have, or getting caught up in what you seem to be losing, or getting caught up with the differences opinions with people, especially with somebody in authority. It can really throw you off. And so again, this is about being open to receive what is already created for us, to attract it in, but we have to make space for it. So even if something seems like you're losing something in a material way with the Queen of Keys reversed, perhaps that is actually making space for blessings and gratitude for you to receive, right? And blessings for you to receive and to cultivate the gratitude for that. And so sometimes things don't look exactly the way that we want them to look, but there's a much bigger plan, right? Jupiter in Aquarius, the star card, right? The long-sightedness, the confidence in nature, as it unfolds, always in our best interest if we see it that way, and we are focused on nature doing that and not so much our manipulation of it. Okay, and so as we move to the top here, when it comes to Archangel Michael, the weasel, right? Be silent, pay attention, and simply observe. This is, again, about being present, right? This is about being present and very connected to what is happening around you so that you can know what is happening. Tuning into your body. I cannot stress this enough, how important this is. You will not be able to really know just through your mind alone. And this is going to become so evident when the nodes start shifting out of Gemini and Sagittarius. It's been a great run. And especially for those of us who have, like I said, strong mutable energy, or especially like strong Gemini, strong Sagittarius, it's been a great run, and it's felt really good to engage some of these things from this mental perspective. And many of us have done very well. Others have really gone a little bit insane, right? I mean, we've all been down the whole thing. So now this is time to tune into your body. The weasel, right? Be silent, pay attention, simply observe, right? And the physical feelings, what's happening inside and all around you. You have to get low, right? You have to get close to the ground. You have to be present. You have to know what energy feels like in your body when it's moving around. This is essential. And then, of course, the Seven of Scrolls is back. So when we talk about releasing our energy, our conscious awareness and attention here on this divine channel of power, we have to be aware of the details. We have to be meticulous. We have to realize that nothing's going to happen as quickly as we want it to, right? We still have time although it is contracting in some ways. Not all of us have time left. But if you want, and also to keep in mind that we're not the only ones trying to craft something, right? And things have been in place and being built for a very long time. And again, you want to be tuned into your body. You want to be tuned into the natural world. You want to get low. You want to observe. You want to make meticulous decisions. You want to pay attention to the details. If we're trying to like build a whole, if humanity is evolving in consciousness towards a natural, evolution, right? Not an AI evolution, then we have to also be aware of what's going on around us, and we have to pay attention to our bodies, and we have to know and be patient that things are not going to happen like that. And when we're building massive things, then we have to take the time to measure them, to give ourselves a timeline to pace ourselves, right? And the interference that's going to come is a great way to get us off track. So again, we need to be in our bodies, tuned in and aware, especially if we want to utilize all of this power and channel it into the most divine battle, right? Or the most uplifting situation, literally. So it's important that we are staying vigilant and that we're staying observant and we're getting tuned in, and that we realize that every step actually makes a difference. Every choice makes a difference. Everything that we do actually makes a difference now equally. And everybody, you know what I mean? There's nobody that it's not doing that. Even the people who are doing the things that you think are making them soulless, they are still making decisions that have an impact on all of us too. So it goes both ways, and it's important to realize that. So I'm going to check in with the chat here real quick and see what's going on. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Pleiadian times too. Very, very much. Gemini 7th house. Yeah, I'd be over that too. Mine's in my 5th house, so I've been loving it. I've been absolutely loving it. I literally, right? I'm in my prime when I am like in the realm of ideas, right? And then I have a stellium of Sagittarius. So it's like that. This has been my wheelhouse for the last 18 months in terms of the soul's journey, right? And certainly it'll be the same shifting into Taurus and Scorpio too, just completely different. It's the realm of the mind is not necessarily going to be the most efficient sense that we have, right? And it's going to be really important that we are able to make this transition. And the lunar eclipse, oh man, it's going to be something else. That's all I'm going to say about that. So let's move on over to the astrology for today. So I'm going to shut that, and we will look at what we got going on here. All right, guys. I hope everyone's doing well, taking good care of themselves. Just in case you may be interested, my dad is doing so well. I totally freaked out when I found out that they were going to move him to a bigger hospital in a bigger city. And it was that day that Venus was in a trine to Neptune, and I knew that was going to be a huge safety valve releasing, and it was. Oh my God. Like I just was reduced to truly just raw cleansing emotion. It was really good. I needed to release that. And he's doing really well. He's probably going to go, he has to have like a plastic surgery done to repair his lung, because they took out part of his lung because he had stage 1 cancer. So he's like, just take it out. And so they did, but it caused a lot of damage in the process, and they've been trying to fix it ever since. And so he's going in today, and hopefully they'll be able to do it all in one shot. He's very stable and he's doing well. And I'm at least partially convinced that my fervent praying and from other people and like the constant connection energetically has been really helping him. And he's determined to stay here, right? People are, and I mean, I only say this because this has happened to me, so I feel like that I can. I mean, people are literally dropping like flies right now. And it's really, it feels like that whatever it is, he is determined to stay. And so he's going through his own trial right now, and really, I think his faith is really being tested right now. That's my sense, but he's doing really well. So I'm thankful for that. So let's look at and he's a strong Virgo. He's got a stellium in Virgo, actually. So if that gives you any indication of the type of man he is, I feel like that he's especially with the moon in Virgo right now, I think he's getting a nice reminder at a soul level here, what he's here to do. So yeah. Let's look at this, shall we? So here is our moon in Virgo. Like I said, it became really clear to me over the last day and a half that the trine, you can see right here, this trine right here was going to be really, really important. And another one as well that's going to be really important that shows up in terms of our, where are we putting... what are we here for? Are we here for ourselves, or are we here from the long game? Are we here for the big picture? And if you're a starseed, then you know the answer to that. And you have to be, you're almost under more responsibility, in my opinion, to be aware that it's not about you and what you're trying to do. And of course, it is to a certain extent, but to realize that everything that you're doing is part of this process on the planet, is to assist in the awakening process, to hold space for other people, hold space within yourself, of course, but to be part of this process, to be a light for people, to guide them when they ask for assistance. It's not really about like, what can you manifest for your own abundance? I mean, that just comes with the territory of being on your mission and being in the flow of who you are. And as a starseed, you have a very specific mission for being here. Now, everybody's mission is different in terms of the way that it unfolds, and it's characterized in a physical form. But your mission is to be part of this process. And I think we really need to start being very real with ourselves about what it is that we're here to do, because I feel like a lot of us are still, many of us, I feel like, are still working against that and not even realizing it. So let's look at this astrology here for today, because Uranus has shifted as well. And I think that's important to realize that Uranus is shifting into the last, now into 13 to 14 degrees of Taurus. And we've gone from a really being transformed, or certainly our trigger for transformation has gone from being able to brave the storm into a dynamic that has much more to do with, again, cultivating natural energies, being revitalized by simple things, right? You can feel it shifting now into this space, into this perspective. Well, I wouldn't even say perspective, into this dynamic. And you know how Uranus is. I mean, Uranus is the Aquarian ruler. Uranus is going to turn everything on its side very drastically and quickly in terms of your material resources, your actual health, your the land you live on in some cases, right? I mean, it just depends on where you are, where this is happening in your chart, and what else is going on. But we are finding that the pathway to the collective awakening is about to shift gears into, are you able to revitalize yourself by returning to a much more simpler and seamless connection to the natural world as a way to revitalize yourself, to let go of the control that we were, that we needed, right? Our character has been really tested for the last how many weeks that Uranus was in this 14 to 15 degree of Taurus. And now that it's shifting, we're kind of, in its retrograde, regressing, I guess, but it's more about, let's go back over this again. Let's really look at it within ourselves, our own awakening within ourselves in terms of our ability to do this. So, let me look here. Yes. So that was really the first transit of the day, whatever that means. And we find it here last night, right? So if between 5 and 6 a.m., it wasn't even last night, between 5 and 6 a.m., you're going to find that trine there. And so this is in sextile to Sirius. So we have the Sirian starseed activation. And what do the Sirian starseeds do? And what do the Sirians do? Like, what is their role? Well, I mean, not only representing the womb and the space in which we create, right? The Syrian star is in Cancer, right? Is in 14 degrees Cancer in Western astrology. Is the Syrian star seeds are the energy workers. They're the shamans. They are the ones that are able to actually, quote unquote, manifest by way of their creative power at the seat of their creation, which is the sacral area. Through the expression of vibration, right? So you vibrate like physically through sound, right? Through your words, through chanting, through singing, through rhythm. So drumming and dancing is also, these are all shamanic tools, indigenous shamanic tools, is the utilization of rhythm, of oscillation, of vibration. And it's expressed through the throat chakra, right? At the same hertz that, the same frequency as the Schumann resonance, basically, so our throat chakra is meant to be tuned to the resonance of the planet herself, but we have to actually like connect into the grid of the planet, to the natural energies. We have to allow it to release that energy from the seat of our creation in order to come through. And this is how this is how the shamans are able to heal. This is how they're able to protect their communities. This is how they're able to go into, beyond the veil and to see things in order for people to heal, in order for people to find, the root causes of some of their issues in life. This is, the shaman was often a guide for those souls who are passing away, because this is an individual who's able to bridge this, move past the veil, to move into the non-physical. So the Syrian star seeds, they hold all of this resonance and this potential here. And so the moon in Virgo, in connection to Sirius, is a lot about how we individually are cultivating this potential within us, through our subconscious, through our intuition, being able to feel the seat of our power and what that is in our body. And then applying it to Uranus, right? This is a trine. This is total support. And with the moon in a trine to Uranus, it is like the emotional disruption, right? It can be very static. There could be interference if we're not aware of it. Absolutely could be interference, but it also does provide a lot of potential in this moment for us to really bring that, not only this awakening and humanitarian perspective through Uranus into our immediate experience of what the moon represents, but we also are finding that we specifically are able to return and revitalize ourselves by this return to a more natural state, of simpler joys, right? Enjoying life, essentially enjoying what life has to offer at a very natural level that will, through the disruption in the world around us, gives us an opportunity to not only bring this about, but it also too allows us to really tap into this lineage that's way more than just ourselves, right? We individually, with Virgo, for instance, are doing this work to cultivate ourselves as an avatar, right? And this degree of in galactic astrology really has to do with being an avatar, like that 13 to 14 degrees, roughly 13 degrees is about being an avatar for something, right? And this is not about possession. And, what's interesting is that the Syrians and the Syrian star seeds, that is the nature of the avatar in some ways, is to be able to hold and then express the resonance of the creator, right? And to bring it forward into some sort of material incarnate form, or to utilize those very natural expressive tools in order to manifest or to heal or to just attract to you that which you are vibrating with. And it will have something to do with being able to connect to the natural world, to be revitalized by the simple things. What is it? Like, sitting by the creek by your house, going for a walk in nature, going to the coast and just sitting and listening to the ocean waves, sitting under a tree, your favorite tree, or going through, walking through the park. Sometimes I'll just like space out because I'll watch this groundhog outside of my window for like 10 minutes as they're just hopping around and eating stuff. This, it's something that is much more simple, and it allows us in some ways to access more than we ever could through our minds, this potential within us. And it's meant to be something much more than just us as individuals. The whole point of Virgo is to be of service to the community or the collective, but it is about doing the individual work in order to make that happen. So this trine is really, really important for all of that stuff today. So as the moon then moves on from this moment, which it has, right, it's going to oppose Neptune later today. Let's find it here. And there's a connection here with Mars and some of the asteroids that we'll get to. I just want to look at this moon as it moves through Virgo today, because it's going to end with this trine to Pluto in this process. So the moon in Virgo opposite Neptune in Pisces. And again, we are feeling like, our responsibility of stepping into this royal role. And we see that in the reading with that King of Roses, right? This ability to step into this station, right? And stepping into a coat of arms that's, covered in crystals to protect us and to denote our ability to do this, right? You don't step into a role as the leader or a spiritual leader, and you sure as hell don't put on that breastplate unless you are capable of exercising the authority of that role. And so the opposition, though, to Neptune is, Neptune is being Neptune. So it's dissolving everything, just dissolving, and especially within us. It's almost like it's dissolving everything within us that other than the very essence of what the great experience, the peak experience really is, right? Everything else is getting dissolved away except for that singular process of the peak experience coming down from the mountain into our everyday experience and then applying it. Everything else is getting dissolved away within us constantly by Neptune. But the opposition with the moon today, oh man, is challenging us to stay focused on what we each are here to do for the collective, or in service, right, to other, which is what Virgo really is about, in service to other, in service to God, in service to the highest good, in service to humanity, right? And so this is like a challenge right here in this opposition, because Neptune just keeps dissolving. I mean, Neptune will just dissolve the breastplate away, or the coat of arms, or the fact that there's a lineage, so, or that there's a you. I mean, that's a big part of Neptune and Pisces. Even you as your own self is dissolved away as well. And this challenge with the moon in Virgo, that's like, okay, there's still this part of you, there's this part of us, each of us, that is that we feel into, that it's time to to step into this royal station, whatever it is for us, and to be put on that armor of God in some ways. It's just really difficult when everything is being dissolved down, even that armor in some ways. So this is just a challenge that we're going to face by the end of today as well, this moon opposite Neptune, right? Because those things seem to all kind of, it's great when the moon is with Neptune in Pisces, right? All of the fantasy and the dreaminess and like intense dreams, all of that stuff. But when it's opposite, it's kind of keeping our feet on the ground in one hand, while at the same time our spirit is going back to source at a collective level, if that makes sense. It's kind of a, it's a paradox in a lot of ways. Then Good old Mercury. Then the moon comes right after that, is in a quincunx to Jupiter in Aquarius. And we've been talking a lot about that already. And again, now while Jupiter is expanding and advocating and giving us a lot of confidence and the long game in terms of disciplining our energies, disciplining our ability to hold the energies in a humanitarian collection of people, right? In an organism, right, that is made up of, how many trillions of cells. You can think about the human body, if you want, as the Aquarian organism, and then everything else in it is the Leo aspect that's opposite. You can't have a collective without all these little cells. Again, it's giving us a lot of confidence in order to train. Every situation in a collective context is training us to be able to have confidence, to see the long game, to discipline our energies as a result of all the training in a social context. What the quincunx is very interesting, because it is about taming our vital energies in order to fulfill an individual's destiny, because we're still talking about Virgo, right? And so it's like a lion tamer displaying, their skills, and the lion being our kundalini, right? To be able to tame the energy, to be able to tame it so that it can be forwarded and utilized in service. So it seems like that they wouldn't be not fitting with each other, but the moon is again about us in our own work, in our own daily routines, in our own habits, in our own actions within ourselves. That's where the moon, it's about taming those energies, whereas all of the situations that are challenging us at a social level are really what is training us to handle the much larger energies that are coming in. And Jupiter being so Jupiter, right, is just the confidence and the big picture of the whole thing. The quincunx is our moment to adjust ourselves in the face of that, and especially adjust ourselves in the face of the star. It's like there is cosmic optimism, of course, with Jupiter in Aquarius, but we still have to actually do the mundane, unattractive work on a daily basis of taming our vital energies, not letting them be utilized for something outside of service to the whole, and not in a collective Borg way either, in a very humble, in a very purified, devoted way, because that's what Virgo means. So this is our opportunity to adjust ourselves, because then we have, right from here at the end of the day, we're going to see that the moon is in a trine to Pluto, and will be in a grand Earth trine to Black Moon Lilith over here at 24 to 25 degrees of Taurus. So let me see if I can find it on here. Yes, you don't see it fully. Let me make sure you guys see it. You don't see it. It's not as, because the moon hasn't gotten in direct trine, but you can see that it is making up a kite in this Earth trine with Black Moon Lilith, right? So here, the nodal axis will be its spike or its spine, and then you see, boom, this. It's kind of off center a little bit, but the Earth trine is the big point here, because that means that Black Moon Lilith and Pluto are an exact trine. Black Moon Lilith and the moon in Virgo are an exact trine. And then right from there, the moon comes into a trine with Pluto. And what is that degree of Virgo? It's the flag at half mast. There's something that we are going to release, and especially with Black Moon Lilith involved in this picture here at the end of Taurus, which is the Pleiadian star cluster and the Pleiadian territory, about the cultivation of natural energies for the use of by the whole, right? That's really where Black Moon Lilith in this moment really represents, is the cultivation of natural energies for collective use and recreation. Now, when we're talking about Lilith, we're talking about self-preservation. We're talking about deep survival. We're talking about a part of ourselves that we aren't even aware. It's like animalistic almost, right? It's this deep part of ourselves that demands to be seen and demands the right to exist. And oftentimes is stuff that we suppress and push away because we're ashamed of that part of ourselves. And if we don't acknowledge it and we continue to suppress it or push it away out of shame and guilt, it finds another way to express itself. And it's usually in a way that is not fully conscious and aware, right? It comes out in ways that can be very destructive or really reinforcing that Draco signature of like self-preservation and manipulation. And, just it's like the pissed off activist, right? And, but at the same time, when you are not aware that energy coming through you to encourage or motivate that activist position, right? If you're not aware of the very deep motivations for it that are deeper than even your own self, that are coming from something so deep that you don't even recognize them as yourself, if you're not willing to go into those realms and really understand this part of yourself, then it can really be taken over and utilized for somebody else's gain. Or you are just so hyper focused on demanding your right to be, which is not in itself a bad thing, but then you are easily manipulated into, you're very easily manipulated. That's all. I think I'm going to leave it there. So as the cultivation of natural energies for collective use, right? Who's the collective use? What is it that we are giving ourselves over to, the moon in Virgo? And how is this all connecting in this grand Earth trine to Pluto, which is about to station direct any minute now? So it's like coming down to a standstill. So there's a release here of who we are. And if we can get into the Lilith aspect from a very conscious perspective, if we can be kind of the observer and the witness, right? Go back to that weasel, in terms of being able to get low, get silent, be in your body, be present. That's the other thing about Lilith. Get into your body, right? That is your gut. Your gut's going to tell you what's up. It will never steer you wrong because we are programmed at the most basic level to survive, and to have signals and receive signals that will take us where we need to go in order to survive. Lilith, especially in her retrograde right now, we have to be aware of it, because then it could easily be taken over, and then we find ourselves giving of ourselves for some sort of communal or social context that ultimately is not what we actually want. But we're so hyper fixated on the not being aware of all of the things that we actually repress about ourselves and suppress about ourselves, that we don't see what we're doing. But the benefit of this trine today, which is really, really powerful, is to have Lilith and a Virgo moon and Pluto all involved together in an Earth trine. I mean, something very significant is shifting and being destroyed in order to make space for something new, in order to be cultivated for everybody's use, not just our own, but we have our own role to play in this process, which is that moon in Virgo, right? And to be recognized for it on some level. And it's like when you have a flag at half mast, it's because you're recognizing all of the service that somebody has provided at the end of their life. And so we each have something to be doing here. And it's directly connected to what is being destroyed at an institutional level with Pluto and Capricorn. And if we are very aware and we are willing to get observant, to get low, to get into our body, to really feel what we're here to do and our connection to the planet, then we can utilize the energy of Lilith, I think, to actually cultivate the natural energies for the collective use and not just hyper focused on what we're doing for ourselves. It can go either way. And again, everything has its polarity, and we have to be aware of the entire spectrum. And this is what the North Node in Gemini has been attempting to pull us towards in the last 18 months, is understanding the dialectic and how to operate within it and not get stuck in either position, exclusively. So that's pretty cool, that trine very powerful. I had some interesting dreams that didn't make any sense at first until I started making connections that have more to do with these symbols than they do the actual people and events that unfolded. They're just like the way that your mind knows how to communicate these archetypes to you. So it's very much in play. One of the other things I wanted to bring up real quick is that Vesta, asteroid Vesta, again, is in, we're not going to see it on this chart, but in Scorpio, and Venus is in late Scorpio. So the other tendency, especially with Venus in late Scorpio, is to get kind of caught up in like this very aggressive showcasing of our cultural values, because that's what allows us to feel good. And remember that Venus does rule the Taurus territory. So again, it really depends on, what cultural values we're really glorifying and to what end, and is it going to allow for us to really get into what's best for everybody and to cultivate our own energies for the collective use, right? Or you have to be very aware of what cultural values you are aggressively glorifying, because that is part of the dynamic of Venus today, is to really push those things, because there's a sense of pride when everybody around you is all kind of like, when you're all connecting under the banner of whatever this is, this cultural value. And then it gets, we get kind of like, caught up in all of the energy of it and the excitement and the pride of it. It's like a military parade or something. So Vesta in Scorpio, still in early Scorpio, is a calm lake bathed in moonlight, and where Mercury is today, a creative and joyous response to life processes, right? The rooster crowing at dawn. And even the sun in Libra today is about how the need to, we need to be able to balance out going down into the deep coal mine or the rabbit hole, and also emerging from it and leading a more natural life. There's a lot of support today in order to actually connect with this ability to balance these things out, while at the same time there's a lot of opportunities to practice it, and a lot of opportunities for the fission that is represented by the art of alchemy being reversed to be harnessed for the aggressive glorification of somebody's cultural values. Not to say that that in itself is a bad thing, but again, we want to be moving towards this much more natural connection. And with the moon in Virgo today, I think we're really going to get a sense here of what that means for each of us and what we can do in our daily life and our habits and our routines and our actions that are going to support that process along the way. So I think I'm going to leave it there. My friends, thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Reach out if you're interested in booking a reading. I'm starting to get booked out at least a week and a half advance. So there's still 2 days left to cash in on the flash sale, which is a lunar transit reading for you, and then 30 minutes of Reiki. It's $77, all bundled together. And so you could just book through Catalyst Energies, or you can email me directly. That's all in the description box below. Guys, have a great Monday. Take very good care of yourselves. We will check back in tomorrow. I'm going to pop over to chat real quick and see what's going on here. Shiva is an avatar of this energy of cultivation of natural energies for collective use. I think she calls natural collective resources the commons. Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to have to look into that. I've been talking about Shiva, one of the main deities in the Hindu cosmology, but I want to look into what you're talking about a little bit more. So thank you everybody for being here. Like I said, I truly appreciate each and every one of you for being here, and we'll check in tomorrow. I hope you have a good day. Love you guys. I'll see you later.